pushing one for the end zone. It's a jump ball and it's incomplete. And Gronk was there. And time runs out.
It's Super Bowl 52 between the Patriots and the Eagles. I'm Meg Oliver in Minneapolis with Who Won the Big Game.
It was real dark. A few train parts laying here and laying there, and a lot of diesel fuel all over the ground. I was bounced off all the seats, and the seats was knocked all out of the floors.
2 people are dead after an Amtrak train crashed in West Columbia this morning. We'll have the latest on the aftermath.
Now, your Storm Tracker 13 forecast first.
And our soaker of a Sunday is over with. The rain has pushed offshore. We're left with a few clouds out there, but no rain on Storm Tracker radar this evening. And we're going to start the work week off rather dry as well. Kind of cool. Temperatures starting to drop into the 40s inland and the PD and the border belt, still in the mid 50s along the Grand Strand. But that cooler air is slowly progressing towards the coastline. Temperatures walking out the door in the low to mid 40s. So you might want the light jacket. Coming up, I'll have a full look at that 7-day forecast and why you'll want to keep that umbrella on hand.
News 13 and 11 starts now.
Good evening. I'm Patsy Kelly filling in for Hannah Rucker. Thanks so much for joining us. News 13 continues to follow the developing Amtrak train crash after 2 people died. National Transportation Safety Board officials say a passenger train crashed into a freight train early this morning in Lexington County. Chairman of the NTSB, Robert Sumwalt, held a press conference just a few hours ago. He said investigators are looking at the operations of both the Amtrak and CSX trains.
Our team will be looking at the operations of both trains. We'll be looking at the crew training and employment records. We'll be looking at company procedures. They'll be looking at they'll be examining the medical condition, or excuse me, the mechanical condition of each train. In addition, we'll be looking at the survival factors and the crashworthiness aspects of this collision.
Give you a little background information. An Amtrak passenger train and CSX freight train crashed. Happened around 2:45 on railroad tracks near Pine Ridge Drive and Charleston Highway. That's in West Columbia. The passenger train was traveling from New York to Miami. Chris Van Cleve is in West Columbia with the details from the latest press conference from the National Transportation Safety Board.
Early indications are Amtrak train 91 was traveling at about 59 miles per hour when it hit a freight train early this morning near Columbia, South Carolina. On board the New York to Miami train were nearly 150 passengers and crew. The 54-year-old engineer, Michael Kempf of Savannah, Georgia, and 36-year-old conductor Mike Sella of Orange Park, Florida, were both killed when the lead locomotive and some of the passenger cars derailed. Margaret Fisher is the Lexington County coroner.
We should have had a lot more casualties, but we didn't.
116 people were taken to area hospitals with a range of injuries.
The CSX was on the track that it was supposed to be on, and that appears to be a loading track.
The National Transportation Safety Board is now on scene to investigate the crash.
That switch was, as they say in the railroad industry, lined and locked, which basically means it was aligned for the trains coming down this way to be diverted into the siding.
Investigators remain here on the tracks. The NTSB was able to get its hands on the forward-facing camera inside the Amtrak locomotive. That video is being sent to Washington to be analyzed. Take a look at the train cars. You can see the force of this collision knocked them completely off the tracks. This is the third fatal Amtrak crash that the NTSB has been investigating since December. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, West Columbia, South Carolina.
And tonight we also hear from a passenger who was on the train. Derek Pettaway was sleeping when the train crashed.
We were closer to the rear of the train in one of those sleeper cabins. And just when the accident happened, I was dead asleep, and I was awoken by the impact. And then the crew came through really quickly, got everybody detrained in a really calm fashion, and then first responders showed up within 10-20 minutes.
Hospitals in the upstate say they were ready for the massive wave of patients that came through, not because they were anticipating the crash, but preparing for a separate potential emergency.
We were really well coordinated, very ready. We had the opportunity to create capacity not only in our main acute emergency room area to receive these patients, but also to set up a triage in our tent, which we ironically set up several days ago to be prepared for the flu surge.
Now, we took a look back over the past year. There have been a few crashes involving Amtrak trains. 3 deadly wrecks involving Amtrak have happened in the last 2 months. On June 27th last year, a train hit and killed 2 CSX workers in D.C. On January 14th, an Amtrak collided with an SUV after it went around the safety arms in North Carolina, killing 2 people. And then 2 days later in California, a train collided with a car, killing a 21-year-old man. On the 31st, an Amtrak train hit a garbage truck in Virginia. The train carrying Republican lawmakers heading to West Virginia. The truck driver died. President Donald Trump had this reaction to the deadly train crash on Twitter. He says, quote, "My thoughts and prayers are with all the victims involved in this morning's train collision in South Carolina. Thank you to our incredible first responders for the work they've done." Now, you can't stay up to date with the latest information on the train crash and the aftermath. You can do that on our website, WBTW.com, or on our Facebook page and News 13 smartphone app. The NTSB chairman says the crash is still an active investigation. They plan to hold another press conference tomorrow night with more information about what caused that crash. Stay with News 13 as we'll have the press conference live on our Facebook page. The Darlington County coroner calls it the deadliest car crash in the county in more than 20 years. A family of 11 piled into a car Friday night, headed to the hospital after one of the passengers went into labor. But the car veered off Rogers Road, overturned, throwing out all 11 people inside, leaving 5 people dead. News 13's Sina Gabriab talked to someone who lives right where that fatal crash happened. He heard and saw everything.
The Darlington County coroner believes the driver of that Chevy Trailblazer overcorrected while driving down this stretch of Rogers Road and lost control of the car. I spoke to a man who lives just a few yards from here. He says he saw and heard what happened next.
It's a nightmarish thing to see. Don't want to see it no more, that's for sure. But it was awful.
Eric Driggers was at home watching TV late Friday night when he heard a loud noise outside.
Kind of sounded like if you ever kicked a car, kicked metal or something, and it sounded like that, but like 100 times louder.
Driggers says he wasn't prepared for what he saw when he walked out of his home.
The bodies was everywhere. People scattered everywhere. I mean, just little kids everywhere. You know, kids is what got me.
According to Darlington County Coroner Todd Hardy, 5 people died in the wreck, including 28-year-old Shakari Douglas Rouse and her unborn child. Hardy says she was in labor at the time of the crash. Driggers says he and his wife gave first responders on the scene stuffed animals for the children who survived the wreck.
I've been thinking about it ever since that. I told my wife and my kids I can't get it out of my brain. You know what I mean? You don't see stuff like that.
Driggers says he's seen several car accidents near his home by Young Farm Street in the last 2 years, but none like what he saw Friday night.
Never in my life, and don't want to. Not ever again.
2 children who were in that crash were airlifted to a hospital in Charleston. One of the other surviving passengers is still in critical condition after surgery. The State Highway Patrol is still investigating what happened that night. In Darlington, for News 13, I'm Sina Gabriab.
That crash in Darlington wasn't the only major fatal crash in the Palmetto State this weekend. 4 people were killed in a 3-car head-on crash in Lawrence County this morning. 3 of the 4 killed were teenagers. Highway Patrol says the teens were driving in a truck. It crossed the center line, hit a car, and then hit another car. Myrtle Beach police investigate a shooting that sent 1 person to the hospital. It happened early Saturday morning on 3rd Avenue South in a parking lot. Officers say 1 person was shot, went to the hospital. That person's expected to be okay. Police say the person shot isn't cooperating with investigators. If you know anything, call police. Coast Guard crews say 3 boaters are back on dry land after their boat started sinking in St. Helena Sound. Happened last night around 8. The 41-foot boat started taking on water. A helicopter was able to rescue the boaters and deliver them safely to Air Station Savannah. The boat should be salvaged sometime today. Super Bowl 52 is in the books. The Eagles were crowned NFL champions on a frigid Sunday night in Minnesota. Meg Oliver is in U.S. Bank Stadium with the story.
The Philadelphia Eagles are celebrating their first Super Bowl victory. They defeated the heavily favored New England Patriots, a team that was trying for its 6th championship. The Eagles led most of the game but found themselves behind in the 4th quarter. A touchdown with just over 2 minutes remaining put Philadelphia ahead for good. Leading the way for the Eagles was their backup quarterback, Nick Foles, who threw for 3 touchdowns and even caught another.
The game is the main event, but fans also come for the star-studded halftime show.
This year, the headliner was Justin Timberlake. It was his 3rd time performing in the halftime show. That's the most ever by a featured artist. Timberlake sang a medley of his hits and even did a virtual duet with the late pop star Prince. The Minnesota native was projected on stage for a posthumous appearance. Philadelphia embraced the Eagles' underdog identity. Now they're preparing to welcome them as Super Bowl champions. Meg Oliver, CBS News, Minneapolis.
Super Bowl 53 will be played next year at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. President Donald Trump issued a Super Bowl message today. It said, in part, we should, quote, proudly stand for the national anthem to honor service members. Mr. Trump has criticized NFL players taking a knee during the national anthem to protest police brutality and racial injustice. The White House has defended the president's position. At tonight's game, the players all stood during the anthem. Coming up after the break, the House Intelligence Committee is expected to vote tomorrow whether to release the Democrats' rebuttal to a controversial Republican memo released Friday. You're watching News 13 at 11. I'm Patsy Kelly. The House Intelligence Committee is expected to vote tomorrow whether to release the Democrats' rebuttal to a controversial Republican memo released Friday. Republicans accuse officials at the FBI and Justice Department of anti-Trump bias and surveillance abuse. The president weighed in again today from Florida, and Errol Barnett is there.
Feeling vindicated by the House GOP Russia probe memo, President Trump quoted a Wall Street Journal editorial. The FBI and Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act appear to have been used to influence the 2016 election and its aftermath. This is unacceptable in a democracy. But the president excluded this warning. Quote, Mr. Trump would do well to knock off the tweets lambasting the Mueller probe.
I am on record as saying I support Bob Mueller 100%.
Congressman Trey Gowdy, the only Republican House Intelligence Committee member to review the memo's underlying materials, still sees justification for the special counsel's investigation.
You need an investigation into Russia. You need an investigation into Trump Tower and the Cambridge Analytica email, separate and apart from the dossier.
The investigation didn't begin with Carter Page.
Adam Schiff, the committee's top Democrat, says despite concerns over surveillance of the Trump campaign advisor, evidence shows another member of the campaign triggered the probe.
It actually began with George Papadopoulos, someone who was a foreign policy advisor for candidate Trump, and someone who was meeting secretly with the Russians and talking about the stolen Clinton emails.
Schiff pushed for the Democrats' memo to be released along with the GOP version, but was rebuffed. Republican committee member Will Hurd explains why.
There was some references to ongoing intelligence operations. I believe they're working through that, and it's going to, and we're going to vote on it.
The House Intelligence Committee will vote on if to release the Democratic memo, which is based on the same intelligence as the Republican version. If approved, President Trump then decides if certain portions will be redacted or if it's kept under wraps entirely. Errol Barnett, CBS News, West Palm Beach, Florida.
The House committee vote is scheduled for tomorrow. And you're taking a live look over Myrtle Beach right now with our Hampton Inn & Suites Skycam. Stick with News 13. We'll be right back. We do have some breaking news just into the newsroom. One person was killed in a crash in Florence County tonight. Troopers say the driver of a Toyota was driving down North Old River Road just before 9 this evening when they ran off the right side of the road, came back across, ran off the left side, hit an embankment, and then hit trees. The driver was ejected from the car and died. The coroner hasn't released the identity of the driver killed at this time.
And now, Here's your Storm Tracker 13 forecast.
And we had a pretty soggy Sunday out there. The rain, though, finally pushing offshore. We're starting to dry out. Drier air is making its way in from the west, but we certainly saw some pockets of heavy rain out there area-wide. We at least saw ½ an inch, and of course, some areas saw even more than that. Everywhere, though, Storm Tracker radar live right now, dry. That rain is over with. High pressure is starting to build in, and that's where we're going to stay for the next couple of days as that high pressure stays in control. So again, drying and clearing out tonight. No more rain in the forecast. You can leave the umbrella at home for a couple of days. We'll be mostly sunny and seasonable on Monday and Tuesday, but our next front arrives on Wednesday and Wednesday night, bringing us a chance for another round of showers. But right now our winds are coming in out of the west, bringing in that drier air. Breezy at times out there at 12 miles per hour right now in Florence, 8 up in Laurinburg. But those winds coming in out of the west means the drier air that's out to our west right now will be moving in. And our current temperatures back to the west, it is a little bit chillier out there. 43 in Hartsville, 45 up in Chirac, while the Grand Strand is still only in the mid-50s. So these cooler temperatures will be slowly making their way towards the coastline, but they're kind of taking their time to get here. The dew points, the moisture in the air, the lower the number means the drier the air here. You can see the numbers are lower back to our west, so this dry air is inching closer towards us along the coastline here and won't be arriving maybe until tomorrow morning. And it does look to be taking its time, like I said, so if it takes us its time a little bit more, we could even end up warmer than these lows. But nonetheless, it will be a relatively cool start to the day in the mid-40s along the Grand Strand. Tomorrow's highs, not too bad. Pretty seasonable of a day. Temperatures getting into the low to mid-50s in the PD and the border belts, mid to upper 50s along the Grand Strand. We're going to see a lot of sunshine tomorrow despite those clouds ending tonight. Those clouds will be moving out tonight. Drier air making its way in, seeing a lot of sunshine tomorrow. But this is a look at future track, and I'm going to track out the next couple of fronts for you. This front right here, that is pushing offshore tonight. High pressure builds in for the next couple of days. So Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be dry, mostly sunny skies out there, but notice the moisture back to our west. That's going to be moving in not until Wednesday and Wednesday night. Mainly, this front mainly looks to be an overnight event. Look at this, 2 a.m. Thursday morning. So you might not have to deal with this rain if it stays an overnight event, but the timing on that could change. We still are a couple days away. Thursday and Friday of this upcoming week, high pressure back in control. We stay dry and clear, but then getting into the weekend, it kind of looks to be an unsettled pattern. So Saturday looks to be a little soggy, as well as Sunday. So that's a long ways away. We'll keep you updated on that. But for now, here's your updated 7-day forecast. Temperatures in a warming trend through the next couple of days. By Wednesday, we're in the upper 60s at the beaches, near 70 for the coastline. Those rain chances come in Wednesday night into Thursday morning. That front, though, not dropping us a whole lot, only dropping us about 10 degrees. Thursday, we're in the low 60s. We warm up heading into the weekend again with those rain chances coming in and that unsettled pattern developing for Saturday and Sunday.
With tonight's sports, here's Chris Parks from the Judd Kuhn Chevrolet Sports Desk.
The biggest stage of the year for the NFL, featuring two teams much deserving of playing in Minneapolis. Tom Brady chasing his 6th title, while the Philadelphia Eagles won 13 games in the regular season and then 2 more in the playoffs with backup quarterback Nick Foles to play for a championship. The Palmetto State well represented with former USC teammates Alshon Jeffrey and Stephon Gilmore. Clemson's Dwayne Allen on the other side. First quarter, it's Jeffrey with the impact. Nick Foles throws deep, and he comes down with a 34-yard strike. It is 10-3 Philly. They're ahead 15-6 in the second quarter when James White breaks off his powerful 26-yard touchdown run, breaking tackle after tackle. It's a 3-point game. Right before the half, though, trickery for 4th down on Philly. Nick Foles, the quarterback, catches the score. The Eagles up 22-12 at the break, but Tom Brady rallies the troops in the 4th. Rob Gronkowski from 4 yards away gives New England their first lead at 33-32. Eagles take up a 7-minute drive led by Foles here to Zach Ertz, who dives in to score. Philly regains the lead at 38-33. They tack on a field goal. One final chance for the Patriots on the Hail Mary, but the pass is incomplete as the Eagles win their first ever Super Bowl in style. What a contest, 41-33 the final.
I got the best players in the world, and it's a resilient group. I love this coaching staff, Mr. Lurie, the owner, and not only do we have the best fans in the world, we now have the best team in the world. Thank you, guys.
I felt calm. I mean, we have such a great group of guys, such a great coaching staff. We felt confident coming in, and, you know, we just went out there and played football.
Folds was named the Super Bowl MVP. He threw for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also caught that one, too, that you saw. Alshon Jeffrey, 73 receiving yards. Not bad for the former Gamecock. Well, South Carolina wide receiver Terry Goober is stepping away from the game of football. He wrote a note on Twitter today saying his latest head injury has ended his career and had to be carted off the field against Texas A&M earlier this fall when he went down after a punt return. 12 catches in his time there, and he said those were the best years of his life. Sad news out of Columbia today, too. Former USC baseball standout Earl Bass lost his battle with cancer, and he passed away at the age of 65. He was a 2-time All-American in the 1970s and helped the Gamecocks get to the College World Series in 1975. He set a national record at the time by winning 23 consecutive games over 2 seasons. He also holds 3 Gamecock pitching records. Games of the day, the Clemson women looking to break their 4-game losing streak at home against Georgia Tech. Tight game in the 3rd quarter when Aaliyah Collier drives and goes off the window. Tigers up 29-27. They're down by 4 now, but relying on Collier once more. This time finds a soft spot on the defense and connects on the jumper. 10 points for her, but Tech was a bit better down the stretch here as this bucket here by Antonia Pearson gives them the lead pretty much for good. As the Tigers' woes continue, they lose to the Yellow Jackets 60-48, the final score. And in golf, the final round of the Waste Management Phoenix Open. You saw it here on News 13. Fan favorite Phil Mickelson on the 16th hole, 40 feet away, nails the birdie. Everyone goes nuts in the gallery. 14 under for him. Came down to 2 players. Gary Woodland looking to sink this birdie putt and does. 18 under for him. And then Chaz Reavie on the final hole here needs to put this into force a playoff from 20 feet away. He does just that as it goes in, so we head to a playoff. Reavie needed more magic, though, but he misses the par in the first playoff hole. Just slips out. Woodland would win with the par putt. He is your champion in 2018 in Phoenix.
I'll be honest, this year I cared more about the Puppy Bowl than the actual
I like
Super
the Puppy Bowl, too.
I think a lot of people do.
A little bit better, but congratulations to them. Thanks so much for joining us for News 13 this evening.